I'm Gentleman Josh Hill.
I'm Aaron Jeffrey.
I'm Johnson Jazz Busiest.
I'm Mike Malott.
I'm Ruffian Style.
Tune into the
Donttap
Donttap podcast.
Donttap
podcast.
John Jones.
Follow me on Twitter.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
To me, the Lions are the number one rankings out there. Those guys are the ones who really do their homework.
Man, that's why I'm saying the rankings are bullshit.
From Canada.
Got a really high fight IQ.
But this fight, I'm telling you, it's a flip of a coin.
Levels to the shit.
So many high-level guys.
So, like, the Lion is crazy.
Oh, there we go. Oh, no, we're good. See, he's a pro. We are here. We've made it. It is officially the 100th episode, as it blurs out, of the Donttap podcast. We have Billy Briz here once again. You're like that special guest that you see on any sitcom. It's like the special guest person that's on every episode. You still call them special guests, but you're pretty much a host at this point. So we're obviously excited to have you on. Always bringing that angle that as your MMA knowledge is growing and growing, but your gambler knowledge and the sports gambling and the betting and seeing the lines, that was the biggest thing that you brought to the podcast, and it's been absolutely amazing to have you on. So thank you, Nick. I want to thank you for it's been some time, man, and I know that we've done maybe a little over 100 episodes with like some of the side episodes and whatever else that don't really count. But Nick, thank you for working as hard as you worked on your day job, and then being able to still break down tape, come in here week in, week out, even cover sometimes when I wasn't able to jump in. Thank you, Nick, for doing what you do. I really appreciate it. The 100th episode, we have some big things moving on that we'll talk about. But thank you, sir.
Happy to be here, man. Nothing gets me more excited than sitting here breaking down fights and spending some money and winning some money. So.
For sure. And the one thing that we'll talk about, we've had this Donttap chat for some time, and some guys have been cashing quite a bit in the chat, not necessarily on I think they've been fading me lately, which has been great for them. But if you look at Adam, can you talk about what Adam has done in the past month, what his bankroll is on that live betting sequence he's running? And then, and I see them in the chats. I see all the tickets. It's crazy. Talk about it.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show, man. Like my buddy Adam, man, this is just gambling 101, man. Bankroll management, best 10% of what his bankroll is. That's how he's built it up, and that's how it is. It's what they call advantage betting, man. Like you just hit that shit live. Like you sit there, you wait. You don't bet anything above minus 200 because then it's getting too risky, and you just wait till you see that tide turn. Or I said, like an instance like we saw last weekend, like you knew that if Isaac took down Francis Marshall, that was a wrap, man. And you still got in at around plus 100 before the line really had a drastic chance to move. And that's where you go. My buddy showed if you go on Bet365, any sort of app, it details what your winnings are. His winning on MMA alone in the last 30 days is over 4K. Like, it's just, the guy just prints money at this point. And Dana White Contender Series alone on 3 fights last week, he won $1,300. So he can probably hear me talking right now. He's sitting upstairs in my living room. Probably thinks. And
he's throwing cash at spots. Like some spots, it's like where it's a big swing. Like you look at that swing where the next round the person's going to be gassing out and he's catching it right at the right time, which is the big obvious live bet. But he's hitting these live bets where he's picking up some chalk, a little bit of chalk at times. He's missing on a couple of them, but I mean, if he throws 5 at the wall with some big bankroll and which he's built up, he's been doing pretty well for himself. So the live bets been working for him.
I think even live betting, straight betting, whatever you're doing, I think that key thing is discipline. I think that 10% thing is the biggest thing that counts, because even if you think you have a sure thing and you throw 50% of your bankroll at it, and there was one thing him and I hit on Bellator, I can't remember the name of the fighter, but the dude got knocked out in the last minute of the fight. If you would have thrown 50% of your bankroll on that fight, man, that's an L, and 50% of your bankroll is gone. So if you stay disciplined, I think that's the only way to get ahead in this game, is because you're going to have winning nights, you're going to have losing nights, but as long as you can stay consistent and win more than you lose, you're always going to be ahead.
And Billy knows that more than anybody else. The guy who's giving me the advice on the fact that, I was hitting all these spots, which is great, but it's like you got to take those shots sometimes too. And when you see an angle on a prop or whatever it is, you got to take a shot on some of that bigger plus money, because, at the end of the day, if you hit one of 3 of those spots, in 3 weeks, you're doing pretty well. So let's turn this to Dana White Contender Series. We're going to talk quickly. I think Billy and I will likely be on the same spot. And I know, Nick, you don't really have a spot this week, and I get it. I know that you've been really busy with work. So, Billy, we're going to likely be talking about the same fight. I think we've sort of dug into this one pretty in depth, actually. I want you to take it away, and then I'll jump in. And if we're not in the same spot, great. Then we have 2 extra spots to talk about.
Yeah, looking at Cameron Smotherman, the Fury FC bantamweight champion, 25 years old, exciting prospect, 8-3 record. He has a high level of speed and power, patient approach. Can be somewhat low volume at times, but when he lands in combinations. And we're talking about the training situation and a couple of the hype videos. And it looks like he's in a good room. Raheem Stodds, Adrian Yanez, Matt Schnell. His opponent, though, is we're just going to say Gorgie, 31 years old, coming out of the Serra-Longo gym, 7-3 record. Gorgie's more of a kickboxer at heart, but he's been leveling his game up over there at Serra-Longo. Despite the training situation, I don't think his grappling is going to be enough to consistently take down Smotherman here. He has dangerous leg kicks, but his cardio tends to slow down as the fight goes, and that's what's going to cost him here. I like the line on Smotherman, and I think he lands the contract tomorrow.
Yeah, I gone back and forth on this. You and I have talked about this, in messages back and forth. I talked to people in the chat about this, and I did see value in Gregorio initially, and I think that's how we'll say it, and probably be botched by everybody all week, but it doesn't matter. Initially, I was looking at about plus 124. I know it's bounced around a little bit. It's now a little bit plus 145, I think. He does have some nice leg kicks, and sure, he finished the fight that way. And that would definitely be a path for him to start to slow down Smotherman, who I think really is probably one of the better up-and-coming prospects when it comes down to his pressure, right? His pressure, it's not like he just rushes forward. It's all measured pressure. He comes in, bides his time, picks his spots, but he's always on you and slowly backing you to that cage and landing. Yes, the takedown defense was the biggest thing for him, but I just think that, he's young. I think, like I said to you, there was nothing on Tapology for his age, but I think he's under 25.
He is 25 right on the dot.
Yeah, there you go. And I mean, the leaps and bounds each camp to camp, that, the gains from that, working with Stotts on a regular basis, who is an absolute murderer, and working with Yanez.
Schnell.
And yeah, Schnell as well, too. I mean, it's a recipe for a prospect who can get big gains between each camp. So if he even keeps us on the feet for a little bit of time, yeah, Gregorio's going to have to close that distance and land those big hooks. He's going to have to utilize those leg kicks, which Smotherman does sort of lean on that front leg a little bit as well, too. So he's going to have to watch that and maintain his distance well. But I think that Smotherman has that cannon. And every time I was going through this back and forth, and I just think about the cannon. And I think if Smotherman gets caught, he gets caught, and that's the only way he really loses. But I think he finishes this fight, and because it's Dana White Contender Series, I just think that the line's not out yet. But I like the under potentially, even if it's under 1.5. I just think this is going to be early and fast, and it's going to be violent. But depending on what the line is at, for even fight doesn't go, it might be a parlay piece the way I look at it. But I couldn't find a line unless you guys find one live right now. So for me, the pick is violence. I mean, although I'm still leaning, like the actual pick is Smotherman, my play is violence. I've dabbled with the dog. I've gone back and forth, but I fully see what you're seeing. I just think that he's just going to come out and just land a big shot. It's not going to look good, and I think that Gregorio is going to go out. So I think even with the wrestling, you're 100% right. He's going to be able to shuck him off. And even if it went to decision and you're on the Smotherman side, I think he's just going to have the big moments, but I think he's going to try to close out the show and make a big statement in this one. So the guy wants to be the guy. He's that cocky guy. He wants to be the guy. He's not going to let this go. He's going to try to close the show. So I'm with you on the Smotherman side. We wanted to try to get through this one quick because we will jump into UFC 292, the 100th episode of the Donttap podcast. We're going to try to get you as many angles as possible. We had Nick hit on a big dog last week, although we're not going to get into it because I wasn't really on the Dawodu side that big. He was in a play or two, but man, that was brutal. Brutal, but great dog hit regardless. When the line's that wide and it's bad judging or whatever the hell it might be, and you hit. And that's the gamble right there. And great job on that one, Nick. I meant to mention that last week on Cub Swanson. So, Nick, on that, because you hit, I think, one of the bigger plus money plays on a single shot, you take it away. What is your spot for UFC 292 to lead off the show?
Yeah, we're going to start this with a big dog. And to be honest, the reason why I'm going with this as my first play is because I do not see many underdogs I like on this card. I think this is going to be such a favorite heavy card. And this is going to be one that nobody's really going to talk about. But I'm going to go with Dennis Tululin. Like, I know that this is probably one of the wildest shots you're going to get on this one. But, like, I was going through this card, man. You only got 12 fights, it says now. They've added another one onto it. But I think the thing is, like, this is where I like to play, man. I would like this is a win condition bet for me because I'm not going to take Dennis Lulin money line. I'm going to take the KO prop because at the end of the day, if Gregory Rodriguez doesn't choose to wrestle and chooses to sit there and scrap back and forth, his chin could get checked, you know. And maybe I'm just playing this up because I cashed that Bruno Ferreira first round KO against Gregory, and I'm trying to go back to the well with him. But Dennis is a guy, man. Like his striking is on point. And generally, he loses fights where people are able to take him down and control him. And Gregory Rodriguez has just shown bad fight IQ in the past. So there isn't a lot of plus money shots I like on this card. This is one I'm willing to take. And I think Dennis Lulin clips that chin because Gregory Rodriguez wants to go out there and show up for the fans and go on and show a fight of the night.
I sort of agree with you on the at least the edge on that, man. I was actually looking at Rodriguez as a side, and at least for me, it was a stay off as far as a parlay piece and a stay off as far as trying to find an angle because I could see Rodriguez sort of being stuck out on the feet, trying to land the big shot, and then Tululin, like he's not an amazing striker, but he does land some volume and he does have some power. And I just think Rodriguez could be stuck out on the feet, wanting to march forward and just be getting hit. Boom, you march forward, and eventually that's going to wear on him in time. He does come from a great camp, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. Rodriguez, if he wants to try to take this down, I think that would be his best path to victory, but I just don't know if he shows the strategy to do that, we'll say. So I see the dog shot. What's the line sitting at currently right now?
Last time I checked, I think it's like plus 235. The KO prop is
go
now,
with KO.
Yeah, I don't think
so
the KO prop is there yet.
Do you figure if they went to decision though, like just to sort of cover yourself, if they went to decision, do you think it's a Rodriguez win 100%?
Yeah, I think if it goes to decisions because Rodriguez chooses to wrestle.
Okay. So then
probably subs him even if he does choose to wrestle because most of his losses are by submission. So I don't think Rodriguez would have too much of a problem getting him out of there if he got to the ground. But
maybe go KO sub prop, see what the value is on that line.
That's true.
One by KO, one by sub, and see if it's not too chalk and you see some value in that for yourself. Okay, Billy, I'm going to let you jump in here. I thought that Nick was going to take my dog, but he didn't, which is great. Billy, take it away. We might be on some of the same spots. I got a couple interesting spots this week.
Yeah, first spot that we're looking at here is Marlon Chito Vera here on the money line at minus 200. This is a very winnable fight, bounce back fight here for Chito against Munoz. I mean, Chito has one of the best chins in the division. Durability and the cardio is just always, we know what we're going to get when it comes to that. It's just how much output we're going to see when Chito fights. But I think the hypeness around this card definitely is a fight that you're going to get up for despite the short notice replacement. If anything, I think this benefits him way more than fighting Henry Cejudo. So minus 200 on Henry Cejudo. I mean, minus 200 on Marlon Chito Vera. Seems like a really good price tag. He's going to have a 2-inch height advantage, 5-inch reach advantage. And I think he'll be able to land whatever he wants. And this isn't the craziest line just compared to the other favorites on this betting card. So I like Chito here at minus 200.
Nick?
Yeah, so we're talking about our boy Adam live betting. Could you ever find a better live bet than a guy that's never won it for a first round? Like, essentially, Chito's going to drop the first round because I don't think historically he's ever won a first round. But I do agree. I think the reason why the line's not moved is just pretty much because it's 3 rounds, and that's kind of what the expectations are. Is like even if you look at the Dominic Cruz fight, like he was losing that fight. Frank Yeager fight lost the first round on 2 judges' scorecards. So I agree. I think Chito Vera probably does get the W, but I think it's gonna be close and competitive because that's kind of just how Chito fights. If he doesn't get the KO, his wins are always very, very close. So, but Chito is probably the side.
A little bit of narrative, and I know that traditionally when he's come off a loss, it hasn't been this way, but I think he might come out with a little bit of chip on his shoulder. So I think that he may come out in that first round and actually do something he's never done before. I know that's narrative. I get it. So I don't hate the I don't know if you can even get minus 180 anymore. If minus 200 is the best you can get, but minus 200 I get hitting that first or even parlaying it potentially because I think Vera just wins this whatever way he's going to win it. And then maybe looking at a live bet to get double down and get even better value as you roll as well too. So I think both plays make sense to me. I'm on the Vera side of it. I think that he got stifled a little bit by Corey Sandhagen. Sandhagen just froze him up with the feints, changing levels. He's been talked to to death pretty much at this point, but he just froze up, and that's what it came down to. He had a better striker in front of him, and I think he's gonna have a guy who's gonna want to play his game in Munoz. So I think this is a great spot for Vera.
This Cheeto pick parlays with something with later on in the card. Not a parlay piece, just more of a parlays the same exact narrative.
By the way, the best line on Cheeto right now is -185 on DraftKings.
Okay. I'm going to go with my spot, and I juggled where I wanted to lead off, but I honestly, we may not all have different spots, which is great. I'm okay with that because it's been a lot of overlap lately. I'm going to go with one of the bigger chalk favorites on the card, but come with a prop on it. So I'm going to go with Natalia Silva by decision. I think if we look at Andrea Lee, typically when she loses fights, it's by decision, and she is pretty durable. She's high volume. She may be able to mix in a couple takedowns as well too, if she can get to Silva. Even if she doesn't, I think on the feet she may fare decently, but I think Silva may have moments, but I don't think she's going to get her out of there. I think that we may see like if we look at the over right now, the over 2.5 is sitting at -205. We're pointing towards the over. I just think this could go to decision, and I think if it does, Silva's going to have the bigger moments. She makes sure she does. She lands. She's got dynamic striker, powerful, and really when it comes down to it, Jasmine Jasnavicius is a great measuring stick as far as takedown defense, right? She didn't even run as far as shucking her off or being able to actually get those hooks in, underhooks in. It was her footwork itself. Jasmine couldn't find her at the time because she was just using her striking footwork to run defensive wrestling, so not creating openings for and making it hard for her. So I just think the takedowns will be low on Lee's side if she does get a takedown or two, but I think that Silva gets back to her feet, has the bigger moments, may lose on the volume in the fight. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Silva by decision. The line's not out yet unless you guys can find one for me. But I wasn't going to touch this line because it's sort of the one that everybody wants to parlay up. But I think that might be the way to play it by decision. I know everybody's looking for the KO, but I think it could go over. That's what the book is saying. So I'm with Natalia Silva decision when the line comes out. Thoughts?
My problem is, man, like, one, I will never bet that type of chalk on women's MMA. Once again, it's not to talk shit. It's just like this fight's going to be closer than the line suggests. That's the reality of it. Like, there's no way, unless she finishes the fight, she's going to come out and look like a -335 favorite, which is the best line you get right now. So,
you're making my case for me then, right? So you're saying, like, it could go to decision. They're closely lined. I think
it could. But Andrea Lee hasn't looked great as of late by any stretch of the imagination either. So it's a tough one, man. I like the spot. The line reflects what you're saying. My only thing is this is probably going to be similar like the Khalil Roundtree prop that we got last week where the KO was -150. Don't get me wrong.
I get it.
I still put a decent amount of money on the KO for Roundtree, but I trusted Roundtree to KO Dawkins at minus money a lot more than I probably trust Natalia Silva to get to win a decision. So, but
I went in looking for the KO prop. Like, I went in looking for that to see where potentially there was, if there was a possibility of that more frequently and what the line was going to sit at. I hope the line reflects KO prop is what they're thinking is more of a value or a better play, because then we can get a little bit more value on that decision. So, Billy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the Natalia Silva pick. I don't know though. Like, I'm not a big value person, but you're telling me her and Weili Zhang are the same exact price tags. I mean, seems a little bit weird to me.
Yeah, and I think that's the only reason why I found myself at decision. I get it found me to a prop, but because I don't think she's going to dominate this fight. I think Lee's going to make it real gritty and it's going to be greasy. It may, I may have to try to find value another way as well too. But we'll see what the decision line is, because I think this maybe even the over is just something that I might even look at as well too. But right now,
to touch on though before we keep going, to touch on what Billy just said, you gotta be crazy to not bet Lemos inside the distance. It's not a play by any stretch of the imagination, but dude, that's gonna be a nice juicy line. And if she wins that fight against Weili, it's gonna be in the first and second round. That's gonna be like a plus
I don't
5,
think
6
I'm so high on
wins.
Weili, man. I'm so high on Weili. I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't think Lemos wins.
I don't think she wins at all, but she wins. It's inside the
by
distance.
decision or by a finish. Okay, next pick. Billy, I think you're the next spot, or is it Nick?
We might as well just continue the Weili Zhang talk then, because that's
All right,
the second
let's go.
pick of the card here.
I like
I'm
it.
looking at the strawweight title defense here against Amanda Lemos. Lemos, one of the best strikers in the division. She holds a lot of power, which goes a long way in this division. She has a very entertaining fight style, hence why she's getting the title shot here. But I think Weili Zhang's just a better technical striker, and she has the takedown upside here in this spot. She's a big favorite on the card, but I like her stylistic matchup more compared to others. Like we were talking about Gregory Rodriguez, Dennis Tululin. I kind of don't like the price tag. It's more of like a actual puncher's chance that could come through. I just don't think Amanda Lemos lands that shot on Weili Zhang here. And then greasy narrative is they already got Pantoja as a Brazilian champion. I don't think they really need another Brazilian champion here. I think this is just another fight for Weili Zhang to keep the ball rolling. And if they lose the Asian champion, I would be pretty shocked here.
Yeah, Zhang's just highly skilled. She's gritty, she's durable, and she's a finisher. She's a killer. She goes for that finish. I'm a huge fan of hers. She's just her past couple of years have been amazing to watch her in the cage. So I'm with you on that spot. I was trying to find a way to it as well too, but definitely a good play. Nick, what's your thoughts on that one? If not, you can just jump into your pick.
Well, no, like here's the thing, like I think there's two ways to tackle this fight, right? Like you got this minus 330 favorite, you got Lemos who has a round and a half of gas, and you got Zhang sitting at plus 125 for the KO. Like you can take that minus 330 and turn it into plus money fairly easily, because I think that's probably how this goes. I think Lemos comes out strong and Weili just takes over and KOs her. But if you're telling me that I can get Lemos sub at plus 1,000, I'm gonna sprinkle it. I think it has potential. I don't think it hits, but regardless, I think the best way to play this fight is the under. Because I think regardless how this one goes, somebody's getting slept in some way, shape, or form. The next one, this is just going to be chalk, man. But I think Ian Gary, and it pains me to say this because, like, he's not somebody I'm overly a big fan of, but I think this late replacement is just a bad matchup for him. I was on Neil at the beginning of the week prior to him falling out of the fight. But Neil Magny's going to have nothing in this fight, man. Short notice. He may have a slight grappling advantage, but Ian Gary's just going to put work on this guy. I think he's a safe parlay piece. I think even if Magny tries to make this close and competitive and tries to hold him up against the cage, like, I don't think he's really going to have anything at all, man. And I think, Ian Gary gets the KO early in this fight.
Really?
I think that fight could be a little bit greasier than the intended line. Like, I like Ian Gary, backed Ian Gary in every one of his UFC fights, but I don't know. Sometimes when you call out somebody, because originally called out for Neil Magny, not Jeff Neal, sometimes you get what you asked for, and the fight ends up being a little bit closer than what it intended to be. I mean, how many times do we see these short notice replacement fights just go to a 3-round decision? I think more than likely, the most likely outcome is probably a Ian Gary unanimous decision.
Yeah, I think Gary's going to end up tagging him up pretty bad, whether he gets him out or wins the decision. But I mean, Magny could get to that wrestling and really challenge Gary up against the cage, try to take him down, work on that gas tank, and just sort of test him and see where he's at. Because this is a levels thing right now. This is a huge moment for Gary, I think. Although I've not been high on Magny as of late, I think really what's going to happen is Gary's going to hit him at points, and you're going to see once again, Magny fall and flop all over the place as he does, and either lose a decision, as you're saying, and or get taken out of there. So, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Gary, but
bet Neil Magny here in this spot. But
no,
if you told me Ian Gary shouldn't apple pie, I don't know, man. It just seems like probably like the most
everybody's waiting for it, right? Piece. You know who's going to take him off his throne? Mike Milan.
Okay.
You heard it here first. All right. I'm going to jump into my spot. It's a little bit of a cop-out, I guess, but it's just a little bit of a play. I was looking at the Silva line, and I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to figure out, because she is slick with the jiu-jitsu, slick with the submissions. The line's probably not going to give you too much as far as crazy value on that, but I think that's her win condition. She could win by decision potentially, but I think the way she wins this fight, it's going to be an early submission, and that's it, in rounds 1 or 2. But as I was looking at that, I keep looking at Marina Moroz, who's looked very strong at points. Sure, it's against different competition as far as, on the ground. With her wrestling as of late, she's been a lot more dominant. And I think there's a levels thing here, man. I think right now she's had more UFC exposure. She's been under the lights a little bit more. It's women's MMA. I'm trying to find my underdog, maybe potentially here. But as I'm doing that, I'm like, I don't know though. I think Silva's still, as I'm trying to, and I'm flopping back and forth. So now I got to play on it. I think you take Marina Moroz right now. I think she's going to be had right now at plus 145. You take her as the dog, and then you take Karina Silva by submission. Play both sides of it. I honestly don't see Silva winning on the feet. So if it goes to the decision, I don't see it happening. If she gets nullified on the ground, then what is she going to get as far as points? Is she going to be in deep on a couple subs and get some points there? I just think that Moroz could win this by decision, and or potentially another way. So I think you just hit that money line plus 145. But I think, then I could look at if I hit that sub by Silva, then and she just does it in under a minute, then I'm like, okay, cool. At least I got it covered. I was right on that one. It's a little bit of a show me spot as she comes up the levels. Maybe I'm getting Moroz a little bit more than I should, but I like this play at plus 145 dog, and then hit the sub prop depending on where it's at. Maybe I got to get in on the rounds, but I don't want to get too crazy with it. Keep it simple.
Yeah, don't blame me here for taking the dog shot. I kind of agree with you.
It's just a levels thing, man. Like I don't know. I just think that time under the lights may prove well for her in this one.
Yeah, honestly, I agree too. Though, like, if there's two things I avoid is greasy heavyweights and women's MMA is unpredictable. I know, man. But hey, dude, it saved me a lot of money. I won a lot of money last weekend. Do you know what I lost on? Betting women's MMA. It's just the way it goes in my life. But I think Moroz wins in this one, man. I think with Karina Silva, man, like she's gonna be round one or bust, and I think it's gonna be really clear to tell. So I like hitting it early. But once again, this is such a good one from a live betting perspective, man. Because Karina Silva is gonna come out and shoot, and if she doesn't hit that takedown off that belt, I'm gonna hit it right away. Like I'm gonna have my phone in my hand, live line ready, because she's gonna shoot in the first 30 seconds. And I said, if she does not hit it and Moroz starts hitting her, I'm on it right away. Because that's her win condition. On the feet, she's going to have nothing in this fight. So
I know, like in her loss against Jennifer Maia, that sort of at least gave me. She didn't look that great, but at least it was against the level thing again. There, she's fighting against Jennifer Maia, against Agapova, who's pretty much round one or bust, goes all in and has not much of a ground game at all. She dominated her in that fight. She pretty much took her down and just owned her. So I don't know, man. I like it. I think that having you guys sort of, or to echo that as well too makes me feel a little bit better. And I think a lot of people are looking at her as maybe the dog, but I think hedging with that little sub prop or hitting it whatever which way you can, I think is the way to do it as well too. Man, because
Jennifer Maia reminds me of like a little like Chihuahua that just keeps biting at your heels. Like she literally does nothing in like 90% of her fights except like run forward and like push you and throw like hooks. She's just like that annoying thing. Like, she's never doing any sort of damage. She's just like that annoying little fucking dog that's just like, she's actually. Yeah, exactly. She's doing shit. But
okay, so how many spots do we have out now? I just finished mine. I think it's a Billy shot.
Yeah, last spot on the card for me. It would be the 100th episode if we didn't have the Sugar Show. This is the typical striker versus wrestler matchup here. And this is what we become accustomed to seeing. Title fights, but I actually lean the Sugar Show here. And Aljo's last fight against Henry Cejudo, he had a 7-inch reach disadvantage, and he was landing shot after shot on Aljo. O'Malley will have a sizable advantage at range, and that's where he does his best striking. He's one of the best strikers at range in the UFC. While I think Aljo can get O'Malley to the ground, we saw in the last fight. They're scoring damage over control time. That's just the way fights are going right now. And if O'Malley can use his range and land something that catches Aldo, we're going to be screaming hashtag and new in Boston this weekend. And it's to fade the Sarah Longo train. Greasy theory is O'Malley wins this fight inside the distance, and O'Malley's first title shot will be against Marlon Chito Vera rematch.
I thought we were bringing in a Michael Jackson red leather jacket, and you broke out the Marlon Chito Vera. Okay, I like that. I like that a lot. The storylines in that is brilliant because Sugar Show obviously said he never lost that fight, right? You can't lose.
I mean, if you look at it, Marab's out, Sandhagen's out.
That's right. Yeah.
Aljo goes on Arrow Hawani show today. He said win, draw, or loss. I'm going up to 145 after this fight. Those are just things you don't want to hear before a title fight. I mean, even if he does win this fight, what's he going to
feels
do?
like a retirement
Vacate the
fight.
belt? You know, the UFC
I
hates
get
when
it.
people vacate the belt. Dana's not a fan of him. I think they're bringing the Sugar Show to Boston for a reason. They did the same exact thing with Conor McGregor back in the day.
What's the line again? What's the line?
Plus 215 on the
Plus
Sugar Show.
215. And I was looking at it, man, and it's like that was almost my dog. I was so close. But and then I thought, am I just fading Aljo? So I just stayed off it because I felt like I was just running the fade hard. But man, if this stays on the feet, this is where my live bet comes in, because if it's plus 205 or whatever, and I can get in on a plus 100 or whatever they're going to do, I'm in. And I will be in, because if this stays on the feet, this is a minus 250 for Sugar Show. Like Aljo, although he's been able to work his clunky striking and it's been able to work, he will get pieced up. So it's very interesting if he does shuck him off with the takedowns. It doesn't, utilize poor fight IQ late in the fight and get caught on the ground with Aljo. Man, it's interesting. Nick, take it away.
Dude, I'm so lost on the fight where the Sugar Love is coming in. Like, I am literally like a pull. And once again, like, I may be the guy that looks like an idiot come Saturday night. We're going to find out. But, like, he lost to Peter Yan. You can't convince me otherwise. Like, people who think that the Cub Swanson fight was a robbery, Peter Yan fight was far worse, in my opinion. He lost the first round to Pedro Munoz before the eye poke. That's debatable, but I rewatched the fight today. That's how I scored it. And then you have Rafael Paiva, Chris Montinho, which it took him 3 rounds to get out of there, where it took Chris Gutierrez less than like 2 minutes, and Thomas Almeida. Like, people are coming in like, oh, he's the next big thing. He's got all these striking stats. He's got great takedown defense. I'm like, based off what? Like,
But it
where
doesn't change, though. I get what you're saying. Like, the
where are
matchup
people
wise,
seeing this? Like, where?
but it
Like,
doesn't change
Aljo.
his level of
People are like,
striking.
he's going to get clipped. Aljo got KO'd by a knee by Marlon Moraes while you're shooting for a takedown. Something that literally would not happen to, like, that's one of those things where it just, like, in the moment it happened, no different than, like, the Jorge Masvidal KO knee. Like, that's not like
It's
he
just
got clipped
lame.
and chinny, like,
You're
I'm just
laying
like, I don't know what
275 on somebody that is saying, I'm going up a weight class. Regardless if I win or lose,
that's what I'm
I'm
getting. That's
going
what I'm
up a
saying.
weight class. That's a
the
huge
narrative,
red
but he's
flag.
going up because
It
of
is.
Rob. Like,
It
it's
is.
not like he's like, oh, the weight cuts
No,
hard on
he's
me. I
going up
can't make
because
it.
he's having problems cutting weight. You remember after the last fight that he had, he goes after the Henry Cejudo fight, after the fight's over, he talks about all these different injuries that he has that he wants to heal up and stuff like that before he takes the O'Malley fight. And then he just says, you know what? Fuck it. The UFC called, I'll take the fight. So all those injuries and all those weight cuts and stuff like that, all that shit comes back to haunt you. I think it comes back to haunt him
I
this
love
week.
that you guys are on both sides of this. I think the one thing is, and I get what you're saying about the level of competition, Nick, but I think that his actual striking itself, though, if you like look at tape and forget about even who's in front of him. Yeah, sure, I get it when someone's in front of you and you have more advantageous situations, you land better and you look better. But his striking is at a high level. And if he does end up shucking off the champ, and the champ in the back of his mind, and I that narrative makes sense to me. It's almost like a retirement fight in that situation. I get it. Marab's coming in to take the spot, and why would you want to go out on a loss? You want to retain the belt on a win. But still, in the back of your mind, it's like you've already retired, got the watch, the big cheesy fucking gold watch. You're already retired, and you're
He's
moving
not
up.
retired. He's moving up. Like, it's
I
not
know
like-
he is, but I get it. It's still that 1 foot out concept. So I get the narrative, but also all I'm saying to you, Nick, is maybe look at that as a live bet, because if he does shuck him off a little bit, you may get some value on the guy who was way better.
100%, man. That's it. Like, it's not like a fight there and be ignoring. Like, everything.
I know.
This
You're
is
playing
the thing
double
to make money.
double
But, like,
avocado.
I think Sterling just gets so much hate for absolutely no reason. Like, even with like the Peter Yan like knee, like the amount of idiots I see online being like, "Oh man, he wasn't hurt." I'm like, why aren't you mad at the guy that did illegal shit? Like,
The man
why
should
are
get hate
you
for his
mad
hip hop,
at the guy?
not
Like,
for that.
you're mad at the guy that got kneed in the face illegally. Why aren't you mad at the dickhead that didn't follow the rules? People in soccer fall and hurt their leg and cry all the time. They're like, red flag, like clapping at it, like.
I don't know,
man.
though,
Like,
Nick. Sometimes I feel like in the MMA, like betting, you gotta like put what you see on paper aside, and sometimes you have to make assumptions. And
don't get
like,
me wrong, I am not lying. I'm not laying minus 250 chalk on Sterling. If anything,
So,
I'll
like,
have him in a
with a
parlay.
little bit of like why you couldn't get to the bet. I get it.
so like last week, right? Everybody was talking about Isaac Dolgarian. He only fights in the first round. He only fights in the first round. This, that, and the third. Well,
all I needed.
He didn't have to fight out the first round, and he smoked the dude. Like,
Dude,
it's like sometimes in
had 3
MMA you
bets
gotta
on
make
Isaac.
like betting assumptions, and like the betting assumption is the storyline continues in the
That's
UFC.
a great example. A great example.
But like
Because
at
it
the end of
is
the day,
something.
like all I would touch on this fight is one, I don't think this fight's going the distance regardless, because if Aljo gets it to the ground, I think Sugar Sean probably gets subbed. And at the end of the day, if it stays standing, I agree, like the narrative is there that it's gonna, but even then, like we look at the Peter Yan fight, like Peter Yan has Sean O'Malley almost dead to rights with a couple of shots that he landed. He looked, to me, Sean O'Malley looked worse after Peter Yan hit him than he did after he hit Aljo. Aljo just gassed like a motherfucker. But like Peter Yan hit him with everything he had, other than the illegal knee. And he didn't look like he was out. Sean O'Malley got clipped in that fight, man, and it looked like he didn't know who his dad was. Like he was in pain. So I don't know, man. Like once again, we're gonna find out. Like at the end of the day, I think the best case scenario, because I'm a big Corey Sandhagen fan, is that Aljo wins. Because then we got a vacant title. And I think after Corey Sandhagen's last performance, ain't nobody giving him that title shot. So that's the only thing I'm rooting for in this main event. But
I'm telling you, man, the card's set up where I just close my eyes and I see it at the end of the night. O'Malley gets his hand raised. Cheeto walks inside the cage, and that's the fight that we get.
So if
I'm
Cheeto loses, let's say
we could do this all night.
Hypothetically, if Cheeto loses, are you gonna cash out your bet on Sean and bet Sterling?
It's a parlay.
I'm just saying, if that narrative falls out the window, what are we doing here? We cash it out?
It's a parlay.
Okay, I'm going to come in with my dog, and some people might want to talk me off it. They'll talk me into a prop because that's his win condition, but I think the value is there right now at plus 220 on Unibet. I'm going to take the shot right now. We got GM3 coming in, and we know that his win condition is sub. We know that it's late. We know that there's a live bet opportunity, and those are all valid. But I just think it's so wide right now that it's worth it. I just think that Petrosky is, although he's got some wins, like at the level, like his level of competition, I just don't know if we're there yet. And for me, he's gassed at points. And the problem is he's a takedown guy. So we look at it. His striking, first off, he's low volume. He lands about 3.64 and absorbs 2.28 per minute. So it's not much better as far as that than Gerald Meerschaert. And I know that Petrosky, everybody's looking at this maybe KO prop because it's Gerald Meerschaert. He's going to get caught and knocked out. What's up?
Time out. We're gonna bring up stats and not talk about GM3's takedown defense. That's like sub 30%. Like,
but he wants to go there. That's why, right? So that's why I'm going to go with it. So basically, GM3 wants to go to the ground. That's his win condition. He wants to submit you, so he doesn't care if you take him down. So I don't care what his takedown defense is. I just care that Petrosky is likely going to put himself into potentially. I'm looking at a neck choke. I see a guillotine here. I just think he's going to eventually get caught. Like GM3 is not a guy you want to even get close to. Not even close. You don't want to be scrambling with, because if he gets in on the sub, he's opportunistic and he'll land it and sink it. So I get it. Just jump on the sub prop, but at plus 220, it's a little bit of a fade of Petrosky. Like I'm not a huge fan of him on the feet.
I don't know, man. I think it's cap. If you look at GM3, he got ragdolled through by Joe Body Bags, and then they ran it back in the CFFC grappling tournament, and he got submitted by Joe Body Bags Piper. And granted, I love Body Bags, but Body Bags and Andre Petrosky's submission games are on way two different levels. It's a Renzo Gracie jiu-jitsu guy. I don't know, man. I think GM3's I think Petrosky's too smart, too skilled of a black belt. He's going to get takedowns whenever he wants. The gas out thing isn't a big concern in this fight. I think Petrosky rolls. I actually got I think it's a 7 or a 9 leg parlay. So I parlayed it from Bellator, the UFC card, and then the UFC card this week. And the two spots I have is Cheeto and Andre Petrosky. But
well, black belt when he gasses and a black belt when he gets punched in the face. And I get it that GM3 is not the greatest striker in the world, but a black belt after like a couple rounds is no longer a black belt. And the second thing too is Pfeiffer's a better MMA fighter as far as the well-rounded grappling and the striking. He's damaged. He's scary in there, and he fucking destroys things. I think Petrosky at this level is who's he knocked out? Michael Gilmore. So, like, for me, he just hasn't shown me that he's at that level yet. And then you're going to come in against a guy who's just fought everybody. And I get it. Everybody wants to throw him away like an old shoe because he's a guy who pretty much gets KO'd or you bet him live in the third round by submission. But I just think at plus 220, for me, Petrosky's still not, like, you can be a black belt in jiu-jitsu all you want, but in MMA, how is that translated? Really, at this level, it hasn't translated that great. So I know he's got some wins under his belt. Don't get me wrong. He may come in and have a really great a spot here and be able to call out his shot and get a big jump in the rankings. But I just think that Mearshart at plus 220, I like it. I get it. If the value goes down and no one wants to jump on the dog 100%, and looking at the live betting is really probably the best way to look at this. I was trying to find a dog this week. This was my dog. I just think that Petrosky's not at that level, man.
I'm going to be the first to say that Petrosky's resume at middleweight's better than Sean O'Malley's.
I mean, resumes are resumes. If we got hired strictly off of our resumes, a lot of people wouldn't be in the positions that they're at in their life right now.
But what we're looking at is, I guess, like, we're both on either side of it. And it's really the only way to see how that's going to play out is if those two get in the cage and see exactly where that grappling plays out. Because there's not really, it's just one of those things. There's not enough, I think, Petrosky at this level. Like, he's not really fought anybody at a high level yet. GM3 has, and I know he's sort of been that journeyman and everything else. But I don't know. I just like the value on it, but I fully get.
Dude, GM3 is old, though. That's the problem, man. Like, GM3 is like that guy that you keep betting on, hoping you're gonna hit the lottery, and like he does win, and he is kind of a cash cow for people because he's always an underdog, and you can always count on him to win. And he literally has almost 4 times the amount of wins that Petrosky has MMA fights. So, like, I definitely see, like, don't get me wrong, like, I see the angle there,
feel like in the year 2023, you can't bet MMA off of resumes anymore. That's just not how the game goes anymore. Like, resumes are like, I don't know. I feel like every week like different people with like decorated resumes, and then they end up looking like shit, or the vice versa. The dude that has the sketchy, spotty record goes out there and smokes the other dude. Like Dana White Contender Series last week, first fight of the night, they had the Titan FC flyweight champion on Pantoja's training partner or whatever. Dude got smoked by the 25-year-old Peruvian kid that never fought a slick of anybody in the day of his life. It's just
low level resume. That's low level resume. If you're looking at I think still one of the best metrics for MMA is strength of competition, because you'll have guys that aren't even that great as far as attributes and level, as far as what you think is their technique is, but because they've had so much at a certain level of competition, and the young guys come in, and sure, some crack that wall, but it's just the levels thing shows, right? So I think that's still a valuable metric. There's so many valuable metrics.
Here's what people always say, right? Whenever people use the word durable, you're essentially saying somebody's good at getting punched in the face and walking forward. Like, it's not a compliment. Like, GM3 is durable. Like, that's the reality of it. He's not a very good fighter. He's really good at taking a shit kicking and somehow winning a fight after he gets his ass kicked and his opponent's like, I don't know what the fuck to do anymore.
So let me ask you, at this level, Petrosky?
But Petrosky's never, like, even if, like, the Mahmoud Murdoch fight, far better fighter than GM3. He just has dog shit cardio and has done some questionable sexual things on the side. We don't want to talk about that. But even you talk about Bruno Silva, like, Bruno Silva is very good at throwing wild hooks and then not knowing what the hell to do in the third round. That's kind of the story of his career, and these are the fights that GM3 capitalized on. Capitalized on power punches with dog shit cardio. Petrosky would be very complacent to take his ass down and just lay there for 15 minutes and not give a shit. Petrosky doesn't hunt for finishes. He's very complacent in what he does, which is why I think this is, and I have to agree with Billy, that this is just a bad matchup for GM3, because the fight he needs is a high-intensity cardio fight where he gets punched in the face 45 times and then pulls off a sub. That's all I'm saying.
Now, do you think if Petrosky takes him down, like, say, 5, 6, 7 times and he keeps getting back up, do you think Petrosky can gas late in the fight?
Well, when does GM3 get back up? He usually lays on his back and hunts for submissions. He doesn't get it until somebody gasses out.
How I see this fight playing out is Petrosky shooting for a takedown fucking GM3 trying to pull guillotine like a Cody Brundage move, and Pechersky just staying in top mount position, fighting off bullshit submissions for 15 minutes, and then everybody moves on to the next fight. Like I
So
just
Nick walked me through there pretty vividly, and you actually started to move me that way, and then you come in with the nail there at the end, and you guys are just poking holes all over the place. Now I could see Petrosky sort of laying on top. But I don't know. We'll see, man. We'll see. I'm gonna maybe shift it to a live bet for myself personally, but I like the plus 220 right now. So I'll stick with it.
usually I would say Pechersky's gas tank is shit, but it's been improving over recent, and I just think he gets takedowns whenever he wants, and like that's just the problem in this one. Like it's wrestler versus wrestler. Like,
I just think the opportunistic subs will be there, but maybe that's where if anybody else listening that is still thinking about it potentially, maybe just look at the sub prop, and that's the way you play it if there's more value on that for you as well too.
fight ends in submission potentially.
I mean, yeah, that could be it too. Anybody else have any other spots on the card?
I do not, but I will say, because lines are moving for next week, I do want to say very quickly that Chitty is plus money, and I absolutely think he's going to KO Michelle. And right now, you can get Aaron Blanchfield at minus 130, which I think is an absolute steal, because I think she's going to mollywop Santos.
I am with you on those 2 plays.
I like that. I definitely agree. I think Santos is going to try to cling to her a little bit and try to win some moments on the
Dude,
feet.
Aaron Blanchfield, once again, not a big component of women's MMA. Minus 130, man. That line is going to be minus 200 by the time we talk about this next week.
Now, I think.
So, and honestly, if we had Chitty open on DraftKings, I would hit it already. But it's just not open on the book that I use the most. So,
any other thoughts as we move into Dana White Contender Series, and then obviously going into the weekend?
Yeah, excited for George Hardwick, wherever the hell you pronounce his name, Cage Warriors kid. I think parlaying him and Smotherland up at minus 108 is the way to go for tomorrow night.
And I will likely hit up Hardwick with the violence on the Smotherman fight as a parlay piece as well too. It'll be interesting to see Hardwick at this level, man. See exactly what he can do. El Sawadi's no joke, but at the same time, I think he is deciding this. And El Sawadi, I was going to try to get on the podcast. That did not play out well. Partially my fault. But anyways, for Nick Eagle, for Billy Briz of Pub Sports Radio, this is the Donttap podcast, the 100th episode. We are 100 episodes in. We had some good banter back and forth. Once again, I find myself on the side of a pick that is asinine to everybody else. If it hits, I look great. Not trying to be the guy on the side of any dramatic hits, because I don't like putting those out there. I like the chalkier plays, but we got a couple good spots here. I think all in all, I like the narrative of Sugar Sean, winning that belt and Marlon Cheeto Vera stepping into the cage. I really do. But at the same time, if it doesn't play out, Nick did post it, good question there. If Vera loses, how are you going to feel, Billy?
Man, they put the short notice. I'll just say that they have the fight of Cheeto versus Heber Shahuda. They're like, you know what? Maybe we should give Cheeto a winnable fight and O'Malley a opponent for his first title defense, because we're going to be screaming hashtag and new champion this weekend as the Sugar Show has arrived, baby. Aljo had fun times at 45.
For Billy Briz of Pub Sports Radio, for Nick Eagle, the Donttap podcast, 100th episode done. We out. All right,
Dennis Tallulah, first round KO plus 950. Thank me later.